Everybody, so today I'm here to talk to you about the 10 most common misconceptions about exclusively pumping. Now, before when I did my previous video on exclusively pumping, I asked you guys if you were between misconceptions or frequently asked questions, and frequently asked questions won just by a margin. So that's the reason why I did that one first, and now I'm getting to this one. But nonetheless, I had a lot of you help me in the different exclusively pumping support groups on Facebook. I'll make sure to link those down below in case you're looking for support or any kind of extra, Facebook activities while you're pumping. I know they helped a lot during my midnight pumps. So I'm just going to go ahead and read you 10 of the most common misconceptions about exclusively pumping. And I will say that obviously there are going to be exceptions to the rules. There's going to be people who have never ran into any of these before, and there's going to be somebody who's ran into every single thing on this list. I feel like most exclusive pumpers at some point or another run into some of these misconceptions, and it can just feel like, oh, nobody gets it. But trust me, other exclusive pumpers definitely do. So I just thought I would put this out there, even if it's for somebody who's not exclusively pumping but wants to know more about it. I felt like this could be helpful. So the first one, and I think one of the biggest ones and one that I heard quite often, was that exclusively pumping is impossible. You need a direct latch to breastfeed. And that's just wrong. As long as you're pumping thoroughly, efficiently, and frequently enough, most of the time you're not going to have a problem with your supply or meeting your baby's needs. It's just not really going to be an issue. Of course, there's going to be people who have underlying issues that may affect their supply, or starting out with exclusively pumping, there's a ton of information to know, so you might not have your flange right, you might not be using the right amount of suction, there's a lot of different variables, so you might be a little off in your footing at first, but you'll find your footing, and that way you'll be able to sustain exclusively pumping. It's not impossible. You do not need a direct latch to be able to give your baby breast milk. And I mean, that's not even true even if you take exclusively pumping out of the equation, because you can breastfeed through milk donation. So that's just wrong altogether. And then number two is that it's simple and easy. I think a lot of people look at exclusive pumpers like they took the easy way out. It's just simpler that way. And first of all, I don't know any mom that I would judge for making things simpler. First of all, if it makes your life easier as a mom, who wouldn't do it? However, it's not simple for everybody. There's a lot of kind of different opinions on exclusively pumping. Some people find it second nature. Some people really struggle with it. It's a lot of washing bottles and pump parts and keeping on track of schedules and revolving your life around something that ends with you nourishing your child. It is a lot of hard work. So to say it's simple and easy, I wouldn't go that far. Number three kind of ties into number one, and it's that you cannot sustain exclusively pumping. So maybe someone says, oh, it's impossible, you can't do that with a direct latch. And then you tell them that you can, and then they meet you with, well, you're not going to be able to do it for long. And that's just wrong. That's also something that I heard quite frequently. Honestly, the first LC that I talked to, I told her that I had made the switch to exclusively pumping, and she said that she wanted to warn me that it would not be a long-term solution and I wouldn't be able to keep pumping for long. And I remember hearing that and just feeling like it was wrong. I don't know why. I didn't know a whole lot at the time, but I just kind of had this gut feeling, or maybe it was just like, I'm going to show you that I can go a long time. I don't know what it was. However, like I said, there are a lot of different variables with exclusively pumping and to help you be successful with it. So once you figure those out, you can have it be sustainable. I mean, even if you are exclusively pumping and you have to supplement with donor milk or formula or whatever, you're still exclusively pumping. You're still doing it for an extended amount of time. So to say that people can't do it, I mean, I've met people who have exclusively pumped for 4 years straight. I mean, I can't even begin to imagine. So saying that it's not sustainable is just wrong too. Number four is that you will not have an adequate milk supply. And I don't know if this is kind of along the same lines of like, it's just impossible or you can't sustain it or whatever. I'm not really sure what people's reasoning behind this is, but again, if you are efficient, if you have your stuff in order, most times, more often than not, you are not going to run into a problem with your supply. If you have all XYZ, the ABCs of pumping in order and you're still struggling with supply, chances are you have an underlying issue that's inhibiting it, whether you would have been nursing or pumping. It just really doesn't matter. So to say that you're not going to have an adequate milk supply just because you're exclusively pumping is, again, just wrong. Number 5 is something that I'm going to need you to listen through entirely before you cast your judgments on it. And it is the fact that a baby will always be able to empty you better than a pump. And I will say that can be wrong. And I said that can be wrong because in the perfect situations, of course, a baby is going to be more efficient at emptying a breast than a machine would. I mean, that just makes sense in all of our brains. However, not all babies have a perfect nursing relationship. They don't have what they need to be able to be efficient at the breast or be good at the breast or to even help the mom empty. You know, you might find that in premature infants that have low muscle tone and they have maybe birth defects, stuff like that. That can all inhibit baby's ability to empty the breast or even to be able to get what they need. And I mean, they don't have to just be premature infants. I had a term baby and everything looked fine, but the amount of pain I was in, I could not nurse Sophie longer than a couple of minutes, and she wasn't getting fulfilled on that. So everything can look fine, and of course, if everything is fine and baby is nursing efficiently, they are going to be able to empty you better than a machine. But not everybody is fortunate enough to have that situation. So there are moms who are struggling with their nursing relationships, whether it's on their end or the baby's end, and in those instances a pump can empty the breast better than a baby can. When I switched to exclusively pumping, I realized that my supply wasn't an issue. It was just Sophie's efficiency at my breast, because when I was pumping and I had everything in order, I saw that I had an abundance of milk and it was not an issue. However, when she was at the breast, we just could not get it to work out. So in my case, the pump was better than my baby. Number 6 is that there's some kind of negative reason that you're exclusively pumping. First of all, it's no one's business to know whatever reason a mom chooses to exclusively pump. I feel like a lot of people look at exclusive pumpers like, oh, she just gave up nursing, you know, it was just too hard for her, so you know, she's just gonna do this. And it's just like, what? You know, it's like I said, it's nobody's business. People don't just exclusively pump because their nursing relationships didn't work out, which that's a very plausible reason. That's why I started exclusively pumping to begin with. However, the second time around, that's not why I did it. I chose to do it. Some people are more comfortable. There's not always a negative reason. Number 7 is that your milk composition will not grow with your baby since there's no direct latch. And I think this is all stemming from the whole like saliva on your nipple and areola region and like things not being transmitted the way that they would be in nursing. However, that's not true. You know, you get that slobber in your system, whether you're giving them sloppy kisses and skin to skin and all the dirty stuff that comes with parenting and all the nitty gritty. You know, I can't tell you how many times I've had a baby just like drool in my mouth, even if I was not giving her kisses. So to say that it's not going to grow and your milk composition is just going to be garbage because you exclusively pump is just, no, it's just wrong. That's not how it works. Your milk will definitely fit the needs of your baby. Our bodies are that crazy good at what they do that they're able to do that. So when you hear that, let it go in one ear and out the other, because they don't understand. Number 8 is that you are going to have less bonding time, or you're not going to bond as well with baby as if you were nursing. And this just blows me out of the water every single time that I hear it, because I feel like it's a complete disregard for people who bottle feed no matter what. You know, there's women who choose not to breastfeed in any way, shape, or form, and that's their decision. So to say that exclusively pumping would mean less bonding time or you won't bond as well with baby is just that's a blanket statement to anybody who chooses to do anything other than exclusively nurse. And I think it's just wrong. You know, nursing and breastfeeding and whatever, it's all a form of bonding, but you can bond with your baby so many different ways. I promise you that if you had a bottle in your kid's mouth from the second they're born until whenever, they are not going to love you any less because you did not bond with them because they had a bottle. That just is complete absurdity to me. I've never grown up with somebody who hated their parents or didn't have a connection with them because they chose to bottle feed instead of nurse. I think it's just such a like an ignorant statement to a lot of different people that it just doesn't even have any kind of credibility to me when it's said. You know, like I said, there's going to be a lot of different things that people consider bonding. I mean, there's people who like outdoors and think that going on hikes and being in nature and exploring that with their children, that's bonding. But for someone like me, I don't love the outdoors. But you know, like my husband and I, we love to play video games. Not to say we don't ever get outside, but you know, like when we play video games with the kids, it's like our form of bonding. Everybody has different forms of that. So to say that you need to be nursing to bond with your newborn baby makes zero sense to me. It's just not even a credible statement. Number 9 is that it's an easy decision to make. I think, like I said, a lot of people just assume a certain reason, but I think no matter what the reason they're assuming, they just always imagine that, oh, well, the mom just decided to do it. There's no just in deciding to exclusively pump, because whether you decide to out of necessity or because you want to, you know, it doesn't change the fact that it is a big decision. I'm sure there's people who don't really see it as such, but for me personally, I didn't know what it entailed the first time. However, deciding to exclusively pump with Remy, it was a big deal for me to decide that. I made sure to talk to him, and like, obviously we've been through the ropes and he kind of knew what to expect, but you know, I wanted to make sure that he understood and kind of had a refresher course in it, because it is very demanding. It is a lot of hard work. It's going to require a lot. So for someone to decide to exclusively pump over nursing, it's not an easy decision. It's very detailed, it's complicated, and especially for those mothers who want to nurse but can't, and they need to exclusively pump, it's an even more difficult decision, because that's where I was with Sophie. I wanted to nurse. I did not see myself doing anything else. At the time, I thought I would be going back to work, so I knew eventually there'd be some pumping involved, but I envisioned me nursing her for 2 years, and that's just basically all was in my mind. And come to my surprise that we both absolutely hated it and it just didn't work for us. And I wrestled with it for a really long time. I cried over it. It was a hard decision, and it did not come to me easily or lightly. So to assume that a mom just makes the decision to exclusively pump, that's just, I feel like, really ignorant to their journey, because they didn't come to that easily. And number 10, I feel like probably the biggest misconception out there is that exclusively pumping is not breastfeeding. It really drives me nuts. It drives me crazy because, like I said, I see breastfeeding as giving your child breast milk no matter, you know, what form it's in. Whether you have to use a supplemental nursing system, or you have to supplement with formula but you're also giving breast milk in whatever shape or form, or you are exclusively pumping, exclusively nursing, something in between, it's breastfeeding. You're giving breast milk, you're breastfeeding. And it really drives me crazy. I think it's just kind of the terminology also in our culture. I can only speak to the United States because that's where I live. But you know, when I go to the pediatrician's office, they ask me if she's bottle fed or breastfed. And it's like, she's breastfed, but she gets breast milk out of a bottle, if that's what you're asking. You know, so they don't always make it easy. And I think that is why there's a little bit of that misconception that pumping isn't breastfeeding, but that's not the case. I think if we could just open our minds a little bit and see that things might not always come in the shape and form that they typically do, that it just allows everybody to feel more supported and more of like a unity, you know? The breastfeeding community is an awesome place. I feel like most of the time with any kind of community, obviously there's this bad run-ins, but I feel like as a whole it really can help moms, because I do know that in the United States it's hard to breastfeed in public. A lot of people don't feel supported by their friends or family, and a lot of different aspects behind breastfeeding can make you feel kind of isolated. So if we all come together and we all can see that we're all trying to do one thing at the end of the day, I think that's what matters. So I try to be as inclusive as I can, because I think, you know, the donor moms who are using donor milk, they have questions just like I have questions, just like the mom who is exclusively nursing has questions. And we can all be there and help each other, because there might come a time that the exclusive nurser has to pump and she's got no idea what to do. And there might come a time where I feel like trying to get back to breast. And there might come a time where the donor mom is finally getting off of donor milk and using her own supply completely, you know. And there's a lot of different things that we could all come together on. And if we could just all be more inclusive instead of trying to be divisive, I think that's beneficial to everybody. So those are all 10 of my misconceptions. Like I said, you guys helped me out a lot with the different things that you have heard over your journeys of exclusively pumping. To all my exclusive pumpers out there, I might be weaned now, but I know that you are working really hard, and just try to keep your chin up. I know it's not easy, especially hearing some of these things said to you. It can be very hurtful, but just try to keep the positivity. But that is everything that I have for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and as always, thanks for watching.